Hello and welcome to Mabinda TV. So for now, I'd like to look at Sifuna, the rise of Edwin Sifuna. So basically, according to the recent polls by TIFA, Edwin Sifuna right now polls at about 10%. Edwin Sifuna polls at 10%. So of course, he has risen to the fourth place. Of course, you have Ruto leading by 24%. Then you have Kalonzo at 19%. And then you have Kalonzo at 19%. Then you have, which is the other leader, you have Matiang'i at 14%, then you have Sifuna at 10%, and Gachagua at 9%. So basically, Edin Sifuna is rising. So could he be the leader of the Gen Zs? Could Edin Sifuna be the leader of the Gen Zs? That is something that we must ask. Could Edin Sifuna be the leader of the Gen Zs? That is something that we must be asking. And I think right now, the judges have no clear leader. Of course, they say they are leaderless, and so that means then we must be asking. Of course, he is a very issue-oriented politician. That is Edin Sifuna. Edin Sifuna is a very issue-oriented politician. So I would hope that basically the Gen are tribeless, and I think they would choose ideology and issues over tribalismatic. And so, of course, yes, Edwin Sifuna comes from Western Kenya, but of course he is deeply detribalized, and so I will hope that you will have basically the Gen Zs will rally behind him. Of course, the Gen Z is part of the reason why the Gen Z movement was killed is that it had no clear leader. I think it was a revolution, and so basically there was no clear leader of the Gen Zs, and I think Edwin Sifuna is filling in that void, and I think. For Edwin Sifuna, he must continue campaigning for now. He needs to continue campaigning. The Senate seat is now beneath him, and what he should be thinking is the presidency. That is Edwin Sifuna. What he should be thinking right now is the presidency. So Edwin Sifuna could go all the way and be president of Kenya, or maybe at the very least be a running mate to Kalonzo Musyoka. Of course, right now the Gen Zs are tribeless. Of course, they say they have no leader at present, but of course, Edwin Sifuna, I know he is a left of center politician. If Kenyan politics was to be looked at based on issues and ideology only, then I think Edwin Sifuna could be a left of center politician. Left of center politicians advocate for equality of opportunity. They advocate for free public goods. They advocate for free public goods such as free education all the way up to university and free healthcare. That is how you put everyone to be on the same starting lineup. So, of course, Edwin Sifuna is a left of center politician. That is, he is a social democrat. And I think that could work well with Kalonzo Musyoka because Kalonzo Musyoka is also a social democrat. So basically, you have Kalonzo Musyoka, and I think a social democrat, and I think that should be the winning medal for Kenya's opposition. They should campaign as social democrats because of the wealth inequalities in the country. You have the poorest Kenya for every shilling a poor Kenyan makes, a rich person makes 56 shillings. So basically, that is Edwin Sifuna for you. For now, I think they should continue. Of course, Edwin Sifuna belongs to the Linda Mwananchi group within ODM. So, of course, according to a T4 poll, the ODM Linda Mwananchi commands support of 74% of ODM supporters, and the Linda ground of Oburu Odinga commands only about 26%. Of course, you have Edin Sifuna saying he cannot be the Secretary General to Oburu Odinga. That is what Edin Sifuna says. He cannot be the Edin Sifuna says he cannot be the Secretary General to Oburu Odinga. So for now, you have Edin Sifuna, and I think he will make for a formidable running mate to Kalonzo Musyoka. Of course, according to Caleb Amisi says Linda Mwananchi should not join the United Opposition for now. But I think I will beg to disagree with Caleb Amis. The opposition needs to be united. If the opposition is disjointed, there is no way they can dislodge William Ruto from the presidency. Basically, if they are united, they will be able to dislodge William Ruto from the presidency, and I think that is the way they will be able to have it laid out. And I think if they unite, the united opposition come around, you have Rigathi Gachagua of Mount Kenya, then you have Kalonzo from Lower Eastern, then you have Matiang'i from Kisii, then you have Sifuna, a tribeless politician who doesn't see support, the united opposition will be able to romp in all the Gen Z votes. Remember, those are 2.6 million votes. Then you have Gachagua with Mount Kenya. That's about 10 million, 8 million votes. Remember, there are about 10 counties that are majority Kikuyu counties. So basically, that is the way it is going to be. Of course, Gachagua could come in, but I think right now the United Opposition Party, the United Opposition needs to focus. The eye on the prize is to make President William Ruto a one-term president. That is the prize, to make President William Ruto a one-term president. But of course, William Ruto has already lost the support of Mount Kenya. William Ruto has lost the support of Mount Kenya, so that means he is going to an attempt and pick Professor Kizure Kindiki as his running mate. But of course, then Gachagua has taken a huge chance. Look at the way the DCP party performed in the Muru by-election. David Ketero of UDA won by 18,000, but then the DCP candidate uh, Rotich came in second at 10,000. So DCP of Rigathi Gachagua is gaining ground. And I think with that gaining ground, it is a party that is barely a year old. It is gaining ground. I think that is the way that Gachagua is going to take over Mount Kenya. Of course, a lot of politicians such as Irungu Kangata of Muranga are waiting at the right opportunity to jump ship to the new party by are waiting for the right opportunity to jump ship to the new DCP party. I think a lot of people in Mount Kenya, a lot of politicians in Mount Kenya will contest on the DCP party. So for now, Edin Sifuna, Matiang'i, of course, will bring in the Kisi votes, and of course, he is also a performer. That is Fred Matiang'i. Remember, Fred Matiang'i came to the limelight because of President Uhuru Kenyatta. He was the de facto prime minister during President Uhuru Kenyatta's presidency. That is Fred Matiang'i. So Matiang'i could bring in not just the Kisi votes, but those people, technocrats. Of course, it is not a huge chunk, but it is a significant saying that Matiang'i could, in fact, be promised the prime minister position if indeed Kalonzo Musyoka does emerge as a candidate of the united opposition. Of course, then that will make. Remember, Matiang'i came to the limelight because of his strong stance on curbing exam cheating in national exams. Remember, in 2016, when Matiang'i was the Minister of Education, he reduced the number of S to just 141, when in the previous year, the number of S had been nearly some schools used to get 200 straight A's, but then Matiang'i reduced that to the whole country had just 141 A's. So basically, I think right now the question to be asking is whether Edwin Sifuna could make a formidable candidate to Kalonzo Musyoka. But I think Sifuna is our present day Bill Clinton. He is Kenya's Bill Clinton. He is Kenya's Obama. That is Edwin Sifuna. I think he very much once in a while leaders come along that resonate with the spirit of the people, and that's how then they become very much an enigma. Look at Obama; he was basically unknown, and then came along, fundraised, had no money of his own, and then fundraised from Americans with $10, $20. And I think that is the spirit that Sifuna should go with. He should be fundraising And I think we have a very bad habit in Kenya. We wait for politicians to give us money when, in fact, what we could be doing is to when we what we could be doing is to have these leaders donate to these political leaders, so that they will be able to these political leaders can we can on them. This culture of political donations of demanding a bribe, remember, 200 shilling bribe from a politician will feed you only for a day, but the policies of a right thinking leader will feed you for a lifetime. That's why we need leaders like Edin Sifuna to be at the forefront. Of course, Kalonzo, some say he has not tarmacked his road to Sekuru. That is what some people are saying, that he has not tarmacked his road to Sekuru, therefore he is not development minded. But I don't think that is the case at all. I think Kalonzo, there was nothing like CDF during Kalonzo's tenure as minister, as vice president. Even there was no such thing as CDF. So I think we should cut Kalonzo Musyoka some slack and realize that that is the work of the government. He has been in the opposition all this while. Of course, William Ruto promises change, promises a road here, but he's going to open even toilets. That's William Ruto for you. So basically, for now, I will hope that the united opposition comes with an agenda, and it is truly coming with an agenda. The social democrats, that is the agenda that the united opposition is coming with. They are social democrats, and so they should continue on that path. The social democrats believe in equality of opportunity, that is giving opportunities to people, such as free public goods, such as free public education, free healthcare. That is what social democrats promise. And I think if the opposition runs on the platform of a social democracy, then they will be able to get this seat early in the morning by 6 a.m. The opposition will have won the seat to by 6 a.m. The opposition will have won the presidency. Of course, I think the hustlers are deeply frustrated. Remember, the government of President William Ruto came in with Mama Mboga, promising border riders that they will improve the lot, but nothing changed. And so that is something that we truly must be